The Play Absolutely podcast with Dr. Sue Jennings and Dr. Andy Hickson.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Play Absolutely podcast. I tried to do that in a really low voice. I'm not sure how well
Didn't
it
quite
came
work. Never
across.
mind.
Yeah. I mean, my bass notes are generally pretty good, but yeah, I didn't get there today. It's part of it. Actually, I've noticed with playing with one's voice, it's not just about how good you are in terms of your vocal apparatus, but it's also a mental thing. Actually, dropping your voice right down. I've noticed when I practiced that, when I played with my voice, so to speak, sometimes you're sort of getting quite dark thoughts, taking it right down, as if you're, if I was a religious man, I'd be sort of thinking of drifting down into hell. as it went. But yeah, well, that's playing with my voice. How are you doing, Sue?
I'm doing okay. Interesting you talking about voices. I was
Yeah.
thinking a lot about how people tend to be divided into those with a chest voice and those with a head voice.
Absolutely, yes. And from my limited vocal knowledge, if you like, head voices sort of tends to be higher. Needs to be, I'm talking up here, more in my head. And then chest voice, maybe take it down. But there is a way to get it even further down, like deep in the pit of your stomach, so to speak. And that's really taking it down. It takes a bit of practice. I can get there when I'm doing my vocal exercises. But of course, I mean, there are many there's so many fun ways to play with your voice, isn't there? It's like, the nasal voice. There's lots of games you can do with playing with the nasal voice. We all know the nasal voice, of course, when we have colds. And we start tending to talk through our nose when we have a blocked one. But it's quite easy, actually, as I just did, to talk through your nose. But there are tricks, if you know them, that if you have a cold or a blocked nose, that you can still circumnavigate, if you like, the nasal tone. You can get around the nasal tone even when you have a blocked nose. Takes a bit of practice. Yeah.
I just get fed up on the telephone of people saying, "Yes, sir, what do you want?"
Yeah. Well, what's wrong with that? Yes, sir, what do you want? I know you're a woman, but
why should they just make assumptions because I've got a deep voice?
Assumptions, indeed. But yeah, maybe there's a discussion to be had about sir. I mean, why can't men and women be sir? What is it about sir that
It's all
makes
stereotypes, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, if you take sir as a sort of, a greeting that, somebody maybe you don't know, or as your elder, for example, like the Temia would use tata, which is old man, or jaja, which is old woman. Now, calling somebody in Temia an old man or old woman, you're not sort of going, oh, they're too old to do anything. You're actually sort of almost deferring, if you like, to their life knowledge, their life skills, their maturity, and so on and so on. So it's a positive thing. Yeah.
Well, if you remember, the Temia spent quite a long time deciding whether I should be called Litau or whether I should be called Jaja. No, not Litau. Mother of a boy.
Mother of a boy is Litau. Yeah. Firstborn.
Yes.
So Ballet. Firstborn is
Ballet.
Daughter.
Yes. Should I be called Ballet
Litau
because you were my eldest child, or should I be called Jaja because I wouldn't have any more children?
No, Ballet is firstborn is a girl, daughter. Litau, firstborn, is a son or a boy. So
Yes,
I think
yes,
it
I'm
was
misremembering.
Litau or Jaja. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Oh, it's so easy. I mean, even the words Tata and Jaja are very similar. I remember in the beginning used to get those confused. Um, yeah.
And of course, what was interesting for us to discover was the reverence and the respect that went with those titles, because the whole thing, unlike many other Western cultures, that when you are old, therefore you must be wise because you've lived long enough.
Mm. But no, I mean, isn't that the sort of one of the great things, and certainly something that stayed with me even now, about Temia society culture, is that you could be old, you could be young, you're still respected, you're still treated equally. Remember, I was a young
Mm.
teenager when I went out there, but I was treated pretty much as an adult. I was in adult conversations. My voice, my ideas, and so on was
Mhm.
respected and listened to, which did make the sort of the coming back, the culture shock, if you like, of coming back to the
Mm.
UK when we did,
Mm.
sort of being an adult, and sort of playing a part of adult life. I had to come back to school.
Mm.
Probably probably the worst year of my life, to be
Mm.
honest. I don't know how many times I've told you that, or if I have, but that was a very difficult year for me. Going from an equal to a lesser than, is what I felt at the
Mm.
time. Yeah, I suffered that
And of
year.
course, that make it very difficult, because if you wanted to have a career, then you had to stay at school.
Yeah.
If you'd dropped out at that point, future possibilities of work were very remote.
So they keep telling you, or us, or one. Yeah, yeah. Well, to the viewers, I did drop out. I finished the year, but I left school as soon as I did. I left school with no qualifications, actually.
Mm.
Some people call it uh, um, a miracle, the fact that I left school with no qualifications, and then went on to get my PhD and ultimately become a professor and dean at a university. And actually,
Indeed.
when I was dean there, I had 4 departments under me. So I had 4 head of departments under me, was
Mm.
dean, and yeah, yeah, good times.
Mm.
But moving on to today, we are talking about play. Now, I know that you had um, one of the things that you wanted to talk about play was about play that, well, can become sinister, or play that is certainly not play, but that can be used to mask pain or
Mm.
hurt that you might cause other people. We're not going to repeat the conversation about banter and so on that we've had in the
Mm.
past,
Mm.
but there are a lot of excuses, if you like, for behavior that can be master's play that
Mm.
can be quite damaging. Yeah. What,
No, and
what do
and
you want
it
to talk
can
about that?
cause a lot of discomfort, and it can cause actual physical pain as well. I mean, the child
Mm,
that sits in class behind another child and pinches them,
mm,
and the child cries out, so the teacher said, "What's going on?" And the other child said, "Oh, miss, I was only playing."
yeah. Or denies it altogether.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, but if they were spotted, it was playing, it wasn't therefore to be taken seriously. And that is
Mm,
such a misuse of the word play.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember one excuse for play when I was at school. Uh, so this was pre going to Malaysia. All right, just to set the timeline, we were living in London at the time. In a school there was a pair of boys. I would now call them a pair of bullies, but back then I didn't really understand the concept of bullying. Uh, One of their favourite pastimes in class, and the teachers never never got them for it because there was never any proof. We didn't have CCTV or anything in those days, is they would tear up bits of paper, chew them up into little kind of spitball sort of little bits of paper. And they had a pen, and they would take the ink bit out of the pen, so it was like ends up like a bit like a pea shooter. They put their spitball paper in and they'd fire it at the back of my head. So at the end of the lesson, I would have anything sort of from 4 or 5 up to, I think, once to 10 or 11 spitballs in my hair, depending on how accurate they were. And if there was any time that I complained, I did. I was the one that got picked for being noisy. Keep quiet, get on with it. What are you making up? Didn't believe you. They sort of say things like, "Oh, he put them in his own head, sir." That kind of thing. So, of course, you never knew about that. I never told. I never told you about that. But yeah, I suffered with that for some time. It wasn't until actually, if you remember, when we took up martial arts as a family, we took up Taekwondo, that I sort of got some self-confidence in sort of looking after myself. And although I never actually had to use it in anger, I think just the fact of being able to hold oneself more confidently, and also think I was able at some point to change where I sat, so I wasn't sitting in front of these two people. That was the thing that put an end to it.
Well, I mean, I can share something similar from particularly when I was on the school bus.
Okay.
Because the children that didn't get into secondary school went to another school, but everyone travelled on the same school bus. And there was a particular small group, I think, who resented the fact that I'd got into the grammar school and they hadn't.
Yeah.
But they would do what they could to bully me on the school bus. And my parents' attitude was always, would just take no notice. So no notice. Nobody would do anything. You were just supposed to look away and not react and so on. And it was merciless. And me leaving school immediately after O-levels was far more to do with that discomfort of always being fearful of a bus ride than whether or not I actually might enjoy staying on.
Sure. I mean, a lot of the time people sort of look at the parents, don't they, and sort of say, well, why didn't you do something to help your child? And like you said, your parents, you didn't find them particularly helpful, but so many times parents don't know. My example, I mean, before the one I told you about, the spitballs, that was in secondary school. In primary school, I was terribly bullied in primary school, which we've talked about before, so I won't repeat that. But at the time, I didn't tell you or
No, you didn't.
Or Dad about it at all. I suffered it. But I did have behavior at home that sort of, you guys, maybe you were wondering why, things like, there was, I remember a lot of times I tried to find ways to stay off school and things like that, or after trying to pretend I was sick or something like that. But I mean, you guys are like, no, off to school. What's the matter with you? You're not ill. Or I remember one time you called my bluff, as I think you must have thought of, you and Dad, and you got the doctor to come around the house.
That's right.
And so I was, faking, because I didn't want to go to school because I was getting badly bullied there. And the doctor knew straight away that I wasn't ill. But instead of saying, oh, no, there's nothing wrong with him, he said, "Oh yeah, he can't have anything to eat for 2 days." I was starving. I soon got better, I think, just from that. Mm. So
Those were the
yeah,
days when
it
doctors
is.
would visit you at home.
Well, that as well, and also, where they sort of might talk to the parents. But I mean, that's just one example, isn't it? Where
Mm.
if I'd said something to you, then maybe you could have done something about it. But because you as most parents are, they're busy people. They got things to do when their kids are at school. They got work to do. They got papers
Mhm,
to finish. They got or whatever it is. So
mhm,
the additional hassle of having to try and work out why your child might be having sort of some behavioral issues is often, you think, you don't sort of think about other things that might be happening outside that might be
mm,
badly affecting them,
mm.
and being able to
Sure, and I
sort of
think
sort out.
research into children and their difficulties and struggles has developed so much in the last 30 years.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, the word autism was actually developed during my young adulthood.
Okay,
That was the first time people were talking about something that they thought was called autism.
right. Mm.
So I think
But
behavior, bullying, negative teaching, all these things, our understanding has just moved on
yeah.
enormously from the sort of what happened before we were parents, of the Victorian upbringing and boarding school and so on.
You're. I was going to say you're not wrong, which means you're right. But also, even though our understanding has improved, and there's more safeguards in place nowadays, there's still an awful lot of people that get bullied at school, picked
Oh,
on, and
undoubtedly.
you know,
No, I totally
so
agree.
and there's a lot of children that parents don't know that their children are getting picked
Mm,
on, and
mm,
so a lot of it still goes on.
mm,
Uh, how different it is now, I'm not sure.
mm,
I'm not sure about the statistics. I think it's pretty constant.
mm,
Pretty similar. Because you could argue with more awareness nowadays, more bullying gets reported,
mm,
whereas in the past it may remain hidden. So it's
mm,
difficult actually to tell now whether there's any increase or decrease in bullying
mm,
because there's so many other factors in play. And if more children feel able to report it and the
mm,
statistics show an
mm,
increase, doesn't necessarily mean there's an increase. It
mm,
might just mean that more people are able to report it
mm.
happening. So yeah, we need some more longitudinal studies in that area, I
Oh,
think.
indeed, indeed. And of course, even now there is still the debate about whether we should be concentrating on developing children's imagination or whether they should be doing solid learning of maths and science and so on. And I think that's
Well,
a
not in my
difficult one.
mind. Not in our minds. I don't think in your mind either. I think
Mm,
developing the imagination and playfulness is one of the first things that should be, I was
exactly.
going to say coveted, but
Mm,
certainly encouraged because,
mm,
that helps you build on all the other things as well. You want to go into
mm,
science, you need to be
mm,
creative, you need to be playful. And, if you're very fixed, if you're very narrow, and if
mm,
you're just learning by rote all the time or just learning facts
mm,
and figures and you don't know how to
mm.
play with those.
Well,
Um,
one of the stories that our mutual late colleague Gordon Wiseman loved that I told, because to
hmm,
me, he said he just summed up everything that was wrong with education. And it was one of my very, very early jobs of teaching drama in a school.
okay.
And you had to take the whole class no matter what. And so this teacher rather grandly said that she would lend me her class for my work, and she would
Oh,
go off and
right.
do something.
Mm,
And this group had never done drama before, so I started with what television and what they watched, and they told me about a program they'd watched at school called
mm.
Under the Sea.
All right.
And so I said, tell me about it. And they talked
Mm,
about these wonderful fish and the coral. And so we built up some
mm,
movement and improvisation of fish and coral and so on.
mm.
A bit later on, the teacher came back and she said, so what have you done? And I explained we'd developed this wonderful project and the colours of the sea and the blues and the greens and no. And she took all this in, and then she turned to the class and she said, children, this is really very, very silly. You know we
No.
have a black and white television.
Talk about undermining. Oh, dear.
But Gordo would always repeat that story because he said the limit for this particular woman on her imagination, that the
Mm,
children couldn't possibly think about these colours of the fish and the coral because it was a black and white television.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Wow. Okay. Well, talking about television, traditionally we would watch the news on the television, but
Mm.
uh, today you can listen to this week's Play in the News on our podcast. So let's segue to that, shall we, Sue? That's this week's Play in the News. In the UK, in a place called Knowsley, Finch Woods Play Park, Halewood, opened last week after council staff and contractors worked quickly to repair and clean damage caused by vandalism the previous weekend. Now, this is a £178,000 play park we're talking about here, right? Which includes junior and toddler areas. It's got a sensory path. It's accessible. It's got inclusive equipment. So they say sensory panels and swings and slides and climbing frames and so on. Why people would like to vandalize it, I don't know, but it happens. But we should remember that the vandalism of play equipment is not just damage to objects, right? It steals time, it steals trust and access from children. And when a playground is vandalized, actually the real target is the children's freedom.
Mm.
Next, we go to Colombia, where after an earthquake, safe spaces for children to play became part of recovery. UNICEF reported that it is scaling up support after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake in Western Colombia, with official figures listing, I think it was 181 deaths, 195 missing people, and more than 2,500 injuries. And it affected nearly 800 schools. Can you imagine? Save the Children also reported that it was establishing safe spaces in Buenaventura where children can play, they can access psychosocial support and receive protection services. Now, this story shows us that after a disaster, play is not a decoration added after food and water. It actually helps children regain rhythm, safety, expression, and connection, as you've said many times in the past, Sue, after suffering some really, well, I'm going to say traumatic trauma. I don't know if you can say that. That's this week's Play in the News. So what do you think of those two stories?
Well, the Crimean
Yeah.
one is quite extraordinary.
Colombian, yeah.
I mean, what enlightenment goes on there in terms of
I know.
thinking. Yes, I do wish that there was more understanding worldwide about play and rehabilitation. You can play your
Yes.
way back to health again.
Play your way back to health. Have
Yeah,
you got a course called that, man? That sounds like quite a good title.
that's right, doesn't
Playing
it?
back to health. Play your way back to
Hmm.
health. Yeah.
Because
Well,
when someone's had an accident or an injury, then everyone is sort of tiptoeing around that they better not
mm,
do this and they better not do that and so on. Whereas if they can be playful, it actually stimulates all those parts of themselves, particularly their immune system, that are going to
mm,
help them heal again. So I'm really
yeah.
fascinated by that story. I hope it reaches worldwide.
Hmm. Well, I mean,
The
also,
um,
I was just going to say, I mean, on those two stories, I mean, you've got you've got the Colombia, where it's a natural disaster that's caused issues, and well, it's the NGOs, isn't it? We don't know if it's the government, but the UNICEF and Save the Children that are actually using play and play spaces to help children that have suffered the trauma. And yet in the UK, the story we've got is of the play equipment that's being used to help traumatic children actually being vandalized.
yes,
They don't say
um,
who's vandalizing it. I suppose they've probably thrown around that it's young people that's been vandalizing them, but
mm,
we don't know that, and we don't know why. The stories
mhm.
don't tell us why, or the reasons.
Would
For the
yes,
vandalism.
because we need to know, would they have vandalized anything that happened to be near them, or was it particularly because it was play equipment that they vandalized it?
Yeah, and what is behind it? I mean, what
Mm,
issues are they suffering that they felt the need to vandalize them in the first
mm,
place?
mm,
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of a story. I think I've mentioned it to you before when we used to be based in London, doing some work with Lewisham, the borough of Lewisham. And they, at a time, which is going back quite a number of years, they slashed their youth provision budget by 50%. And it was more than half the youth clubs were closed in the area at the time, I believe. And at the same time, they were suffering an increase in youth violence, in knife crime, in vandalism of spaces.
mm,
There was less spaces for them to play, and this caused more disruption to the play spaces that were left. You know,
mm,
maybe through anger and so on. So,
mm,
it's
mm,
cost saving where you're actually not saving anything at all.
mm. Well, it wasn't that long ago here in Wales where a brand new play space with
Mm.
all the up-to-date equipment, and within a couple of weeks of it being opened, a group of young people, that was witness, burnt it down
Oh gosh.
and completely burnt it down. So there was actually nothing to play in that space until they'd found money to then rework it.
Yeah. It's a pity there's not more natural spaces. Was it last weekend or the weekend before? We made a family trip to the Brecon Beacons, and there's a lovely waterfall walk there, and several of the waterfalls have sort of relatively large, I wouldn't call them lakes, but they're not ponds, but where the
Mm,
waterfall comes down and then
mm,
there's a pool of water. Well, they're large enough for to sort of do a little bit of swimming,
mm,
sort of, you tread the water, lots of grass banking. There's sort of sandy bits and mud bits to play.
mm,
It was fantastic. It was like a natural playground. And there
mm,
was our family, there was three other families, and some walkers every now and again would drift past, but everybody stopped, not just us. I mean, there was sort of, I think, four families total, including us, that actually stopped with a sort of a
mm,
picnic blanket and had snacks and drinks and were playing in all of the nature there. But every walker that walked past, they would at least stop for, 5 or 10 minutes, have a little dip just near the waterfall and maybe build something with some of the rocks or something like that, and then walk on. Natural play spaces, no vandalism. Yeah, fabulous.
Well, talking of play and water and waterfalls, it reminds me of one of the most playful people I ever met was when I was driving my mini car and I stopped at a motorway service station because I was hot and sweating. It was a really, really overheated summer.
Okay.
And the guy from the RAC, who obviously was looking for memberships, but he came up and he tapped the window of my car, and I wound it down, and he said, "You look very over hot, madam." I said, "Yes, I am." He said, I'm just going to give you a little exercise," he said. "Not come and join the RAC." He said, "Just close your eyes," he said, "and imagine that you're standing next to a waterfall, and you can feel the cool breeze coming towards you. And there are some leaves falling down the waterfall into a pool, and you're one of those leaves. And you're falling down the waterfall into the pool, and you're swimming around until all of you feel beautifully cool. And then you're going to continue on down the river to where you want to go." I mean, I just thought that was extraordinary. Apropos of nothing, he comes and gives me that
Fabulous.
exercise. So a very playful person. I wish I'd thought to get his name at the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This is a shout out to the RAC and other car services. Right. If you're training your people like that, keep it up. And if you're not, let's think back. Yeah, that's what we want. More of that, please. Okay, well, that takes us neatly towards the end of today's pod, I think, unless there's anything else you want to add, Sue?
Not for today. I'm still brewing on new ideas for the autumn. We're nearly at the end of August, so...
Yeah, August is, it's coming up, isn't it? Okay. So, as we all like to do when we come towards the end of a podcast, we like to come up with a little activity, playful activity that our viewers could do if they're feeling the blues or if they're in need of, just to make them feel a little bit better. What have you got for us, for our viewers today, Sue?
Something very, very physical, but it's something fun. Okay. And after Wimbledon and all the tennis and all those leftover tennis balls, just imagine you've got a tennis ball in your hand. Okay. You're just going to roll it round. But as you're rolling it round, it's getting bigger and bigger until it's the size of a beach ball.
Wow.
And you've got your beach ball very carefully. And you're going to bounce it on the floor and catch it. Right, and try throwing it against the screen.
I want to break the screen.
Catch it.
Whoa. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And now it's going to get smaller again. Smaller.
Ooh.
And now it's back to the size of a tennis ball.
Oh, I liked it when it was bigger, but okay. Feels more compact now, yeah.
And you can put it away. Okay.
Wow. Nice, that. It's quite sensory, even though there's nothing there. It kind of almost felt, you need your imagination working, though, don't
you,
for that to work.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to sort of lean on something that we touched upon, which is play as repair. And that's I'll leave that for you if that's something you might want to use in your work. Play as repair. Now, there's a few things you need for this. You need a small scrap of paper, a sticky note, or like an imaginary patch. Okay? And this is play as repair. So first of all, you're going to name what needs repair. So you could, for example, quietly say to yourself, something feels a little broken or tired or bruised today. Could be your mood. It could be a friendship. It could be the room that you're in, or a memory, or just a difficult morning. Then what you want to do is make a repair patch. Make it on a piece of paper. You can draw it or write one tiny sort of little repair symbol, like a heart, or a window, a stitch, a sun, a cup of tea, a bridge, a flower growing through the crack. 3, you place your patch. Put it somewhere that needs a little care, on a notebook or beside a chair, near a door, on your bag, or just hold it in your imagination and say, this does not fix everything. It marks the place where repair can begin. 4, do one repair action. To choose like a small action. Straighten something. Send a kind message to someone. Open a window. Tidy one corner of the room. Take one breath. Make somebody a cup of tea. Or just step outside the house for 1 minute. And remember, play cannot repair everything, but it can help us begin.
Lovely.
Yeah,
That's a great
that's that.
exercise.
Yeah.
Okay. Repair
Well,
play.
we'll see.
Yes.
Let's get some feedback from people.
Mm.
Yeah. Play for repair, or repair play. Something I just before we finish today, Sue, is Play Wales. If you remember, a couple of weeks ago we had
Yes.
Marianne Manello on from Play Wales on the podcast as a special guest. Well, they sent us a bag of goodies, a bag of play goodies. Now, what I thought we could do is we could set a little competition for our viewers. We can decide maybe that it's really just to let our viewers know that if you're happy with this, I haven't discussed this with you yet, Sue. We can set a competition, and we can give the bag of goodies that Play Wales sent us. That could be the prize. So we'll decide on the competition this week. We're going to set it for next week's episode. Sue and I will discuss what the competition is, but it could be, for example, we could base it on the playful activity I just did. You like making a playful repair patch or something. We'll decide what it is, and we'll start the competition next week. We'll run it for a week, and then we'll send out the prize to whoever wins. What do you think?
Great idea.
Yeah?
Yes.
Cool.
Keep it playful.
Alrighty.
Keep it fun.
Keep it playful and keep it fun. Okay, so fabulous to chat with you again, Sue. Thank you for sharing your time with me and with our viewers. I'm going to end by saying, don't forget to play.
No, don't. Don't forget to play.
Okay, ciao, ciao.
All right,
Bye-bye.
lovely. Bye.